Here's a disclaimer for those of you who are reckless. Don't use this tool. Alright, I know it's been quite a while since I've done one of these videos, but I'm going to do a tool review today of a tool I borrowed from a friend of mine. So, welcome to Holt Growers. I'm Timothy Holt, and this is my backyard. If you were watching earlier in the season, I got way too busy with the kitchen remodel and other things going on and wasn't able to maintain this plot of land very well, so it's gotten pretty overgrown. On a positive note, I did harvest the last of the green beans that came out of it today, and it looks like most of our blueberries have survived, which is great. Downside is we've got a bunch of weeds, and we need to get rid of them quickly, because all of this is getting converted into garlic for next season. Farm fresh, all natural, chemical-free garlic. Should be good. The Stinky Rose, gotta love it. I love using fresh garlic. It's a little more time consuming than using a ground up powder stuff, but seems to have a little more flavor, so I like it. If you like using fresh garlic, let me know in the comments. But that's what this is going to be. These 2 rows were garlic this year. Next year the whole thing's going to be garlic, every bit of it. So we need to get rid of those weeds. We're going to be using one of these tools. If I give it a good review, I'm going to end up buying one and building a cart for the LP tank that it takes. So this is known as a dragon weeder or a flamethrower, depending on your choice of terms. A friend of mine, Paul and Melanie Blowser, they let me borrow it because it is kind of a pricey tool, and I've never used one before. So they did give me instruction on it prior to this recording. There's a nice arrow valve for how big you want the flame coming out of the end, and it's your standard barbecue grill type connector for a 20-pound LP tank. So if I end up giving it a good review and I like it, I end up buying one. I will be making a full cart for it, so I'm looking forward to that. With that being said, stay tuned till the end of the video to see how I rate this thing. Like I said, I've never used one before. They look interesting. Look them up on YouTube with other people and talk to friends. They seem to love them. So should make quick work of these weeds. Also, I went to an old tried and true ground cover technique. Took some black tarp plastic. No sunlight, no plant growth. It kills everything. So I covered these about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago now, and also hand weeded quite a bit of this space. Some of it, as you can see back there, has not been hand weeded. That was intentional. 1, I got tired, and 2, I wanted to see how good this flamethrower is. So let's check it out. Here's a disclaimer for those of you who are reckless. Don't use this tool. It's highly dangerous. It can, anytime you're using LP, there is a risk of an uncontrolled fire, something you definitely don't want. No matter how well constructed these things are, anytime you want to use a tool like this, you want to inspect it, make sure the hose is good. Make sure there's no wear marks, no holes. Exercise some safety and be careful, okay? The other thing is, I'm going to get some safety glasses as well. They're actually inside. I feel like I don't have them with me. So when we cut through the time lapse of using this thing, I'll have some safety glasses on. So you got your 20-pound tank. Okay, doesn't matter what provider you have, but you want to inspect it, make sure your cap's on and it's closed, because I've been told that these things can burn through one of these tanks pretty quick. So we're going to start with a brand new old tank. Start on the far end, work our way this way. Rip your tab off. Make sure you hang on to that, however, so you can throw it away, because if you're using this in a garden bed, you don't want plastic. And then it just screws on. It's getting warm out. Of course, having a fire a couple feet from your feet doesn't make things any cooler. So a couple of things. The good. Let's start with the good. Good thing about this is it's pretty light. It's pretty easy to move around. A 20-pound tank is not that heavy, and the handles on it are pretty comfortable. So I think a two-wheeled cart with locks is probably going to be our best option in making this user-friendly, more user-friendly, because having to stop with this short of a line just makes it more time-consuming. But the good is it's pretty easy to maneuver around with. The other good part about it is you can get a pretty sizable flame coming out of the end, even if you can't see it. That flame, there was sections I was burning at least 3 feet away from the tip. So that's also a downside, because if you're not aware of how much gas is coming out of there, how big that flame is, you can't see it. It's burning so fast you can't see it, burning so hot. Definitely be mindful of where the business end is pointing and where you're aiming it, because that flame can burn you very quickly. So exercise safety with that. If you're going to be handling one of these things, definitely be mindful of your surroundings. It's very easy to catch something on fire you don't want. Actually, there was a little pile of leaves near the fence that I didn't see on the other side of the fence. Caught on fire. Thankfully, nothing was near it. But that is something you got to be mindful of. Is that flame, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, and it's super hot. The other, so some things that are negatives, some drawbacks, because there are some drawbacks. One, no cart. I don't have a cart for it yet. That's probably the least cumbersome drawback. The main drawback is this handle, or I should say lack of handle. You notice I'm still wearing these gloves. That's because from about here down is pretty hot. The hose is not, the tank's not, the handle regulator is not hot, but from about halfway down is pretty hot still. So, and I've had it shut off now for probably a good 5 to 10 minutes. So it stays super hot. But the handle is a drawback. I like having the regulator, looks like it would be a thumb adjusted regulator, similar to what I've used at work with blood pressure cuffs and things of that nature. Your handle would be here, and then you simply adjust it with your thumb. However, with this setup, you're not able to do that very conveniently. There's no handle after this connection. This is all flex hose, flex gas line, and as a result, there's nothing to hang on to. So you're hanging here, holding above here, and you're having to adjust here. That's a pretty big drawback for me. I'm going to look at some other commercial models, because I'm sure somebody, another manufacturer, has probably addressed that feature. From what I was told by my friends, this originally was on a furnace of some kind for industrial purposes, which would make sense if you don't have a handle to it and just a straight hose line, because it would be mounted in an apparatus of some kind, and you would just adjust it, and you wouldn't have to worry about aiming it or anything like that. The apparatus that it would fit in would do that. So I understand why there isn't a handle, but not having a handle this side of that is definitely a problem. It makes it a lot more difficult to use and aim. I found myself having to turn it to the side, rotating it. It was just unwieldy. So that would make a massive improvement, simply putting on a handle. Even better would be like a hand trigger, a pistol grip trigger. So you've got your forward support here and your trigger here, and the trigger is your adjuster. That would be probably even better, but no handle at all south of the regulator is cumbersome and problematic. I'm going to come back in a week and see what weeds grow back. You can tell in the time lapse I was pretty thorough in burning off those weeds, and the bigger weeds, those 2 patches that I intentionally did not hand pull, it tackled pretty well. I mean, it was obviously a lot slower, but it burned them right up. I'm not sure how long it took me. I don't even think it's noon yet. I think it took about an hour total for that space. It's about 1/8 of an acre, maybe a little less, maybe 1/10 of an acre, about 1/10 of an acre space, and I think it took me about an hour total. So with this thing, so yeah, we'll come back in a week and see what weeds grow back. There is that section that was garlic last year that's still weed covered. It's covered in plastic. I left the plastic on because I wasn't sure how much the tank was going to take, and how much fuel this thing was actually going to eat up. I expected it to eat up more. This thing is probably a quarter full or so based on the weight. It definitely used up a lot of it, and that's the main reason I didn't take that plastic off. I was leaving that to last. If I had enough fuel, I was going to tackle it, but if I didn't, or if I got too tired, I was just going to wait, because with that black plastic on top of it, nothing's growing under there anyway, so no plant life anyway. So I'm okay with that. We still have some watermelons near it. You probably can see those in the video. I tried to stay away from them as much as possible. Like I said, this thing can shoot up to about 3 feet out the end, and you can't see the flame because it's burning too fast. So you got to be mindful where you're shooting it. At the end of the day, I'd give it a passing grade. Definitely worth some improvements though. I like the overall setup, but like I said, the biggest two drawbacks to this setup is no handle south of the regulator and no cart for your tank. If there's a cart for the tank and a handle with a more convenient regulator, this thing would be a blast, pun intended. Yeah, it would just burn the place down, so to speak. It would be great. Weeds would run scared, because it does work very well. So overall passing grade. I'm definitely going to look into buying my own, see if I can find one with a pistol grip. If not, see if I can put one on. This looks like a simple brass gas connection here, so I don't think it'd be too difficult to get a handle put on it or even fabricate one. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens a week from now with any weeds that survive. And here in about 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're going to be planting in next year's crop of garlic. So stay tuned for that. I'd say 7 out of 10 stars for this thing. It would have a solid 10 out of 10 if it had a handle on a cart. So those two things brought it down to a 7. If you're going to be doing anything remotely this size or bigger, definitely pick one of these things up. Well worth it. With that, I'm simply Holt Growers. Get out, grow something today, and God bless you.